The crimson water swirled in Pastor Grace's aquarium as the exotic fish circled a fresh drop of David's blood. Their eyes glowed an unnatural blue, reflecting memories of the humans they used to be. That's when David realized the holy water he'd been drinking wasn't blessed with prayers. It was blessed with sacrifices. David Okafor believed in two things: hard work and honest living. For 6 years, his computer repair shop in Computer Village, Ikeja, had been his pride. The shop wasn't much, just a small space crammed with broken laptops and spare parts, but it was his. Every morning, he'd unlock the metal gates at 7 a.m. sharp, sweep the entrance, and arrange his tools with careful precision. His customers trusted him because he never cut corners, never installed fake parts, never overcharged. But trust didn't pay the bills. "Mama, take it easy," David said into his phone, pacing his tiny shop. "I'll send the money for your medicine tomorrow." His mother's labored breathing crackled through the speaker. "David, my son, the doctor says if I don't start the new treatment this week." "I know, Mama. I'll find a way." He ended the call and slumped into his chair, staring at his account balance. The numbers mocked him. 23,450 Nigerian nairas. Not even enough for a week of his mother's new medications. That's when Felix walked in. David almost didn't recognize him at first. The last time he'd seen his secondary school classmate, Felix had been selling phone cases from a wooden table outside ShopRite. Now he stood in an all-white Igbada that probably cost more than David's monthly rent, gold watch glinting under the shop's fluorescent lights. "David, my guy." Felix's smile was bright enough to power Legos. "How far now? You still dey fix laptop?" David wiped his hands on his work coat, suddenly conscious of the oil stains. "That's how we dey manage, my brother. Manage." Felix clicked his tongue, looking around the cramped shop. "A sharp guy like you shouldn't be managing anything. See me now. 2 years ago, I was outside ShopRite, under sun and rain. Now." He pulled out his phone, showing pictures of a mansion in Lekki Phase 1. "God is good." David had heard these stories before. Every week, someone claimed to have the secret to instant wealth. Bitcoin schemes, Forex trading, he'd learned to tune them out. Not interested in get-rich-quick schemes, David said firmly, turning back to the laptop he was fixing. "Scheme." Felix's laugh had an odd echo to it. "My guy, this is spiritual. Real spiritual. You need to meet my pastor. These prosperity churches." "No, no, no." Felix leaned closer, his voice dropping. "Pastor Grace isn't like these other fake prophets. She's different. The covenant she offers, it's real power." The word covenant sent an unexplained chill down David's spine. That night, the calls came one after another. His mother's condition was worsening. His sister's school was threatening expulsion over unpaid fees. His landlord wanted to double the shop rent. David lay on his thin mattress in his one-room apartment in Agba, staring at the ceiling fan that hadn't worked in months. Felix's words echoed in his mind. Real power. The next morning, his mother called again. This time, she was crying. By Sunday, David found himself following Felix's Mercedes through the gates of Eternal Grace Miracle Center in Victoria Island. The church looked more like a luxury hotel. Italian marble floors, crystal chandeliers, air conditioning cold enough to chill drinks. Even the ushers wore designer suits. "This is a church," David whispered. Felix just smiled. "Wait until you meet Pastor Grace." She wasn't what David expected. No dramatic gestures, no loud declarations. Just a tall, elegant woman with penetrating eyes that seemed to see through flesh and bone, straight into your soul. "Money isn't evil." Her voice was soft but filled the massive auditorium. "Poverty is the real curse. And curses," her eyes found David in the crowd, "can be broken." After service, Felix led David to her office. The room was dimly lit, dominated by a massive aquarium that cast blue shadows across expensive furniture. The fish inside were like nothing David had ever seen. Iridescent scales, unnaturally bright eyes. David Okafor. Pastor Gray spoke as if they were old friends. Your mother's kidney condition is getting worse, isn't it? And your sister, Peace. Brilliant girl. But school fees are due next week. David's mouth went dry. He'd never mentioned his family to anyone here. How did you? The Spirit reveals all things. Her smile was warm, but her eyes remained cold as deep water. You've been fighting alone for too long, but not anymore. The covenant awaits those who are ready. It started small. Special Friday night services, private prayer sessions, prosperity offerings that stretched his already thin finances. Each time, the church got a little more demanding. Each time, David gave a little more. Then strange things began happening. A mysterious client brought in 10 high-end laptops for repair, paying triple the normal rate. An anonymous bank alert for 500,000 Nigerian nairas appeared in his account. His shop began attracting wealthy customers who didn't blink at his prices. But there were requirements. Cleansing waters he had to drink at midnight, facing east. Ritual baths with oils that left strange marks on his skin. Passwords and hand signs to identify other covenant members. The dream started next. Dark waters filled with glowing eyes. Fish that whispered in human voices. Sometimes he'd wake up with his sheets soaked, tasting salt water. The blessings are flowing, Felix would say during their daily calls. But David noticed his old friend had changed. Felix never seemed to sweat despite the Legos heat. His skin had a strange sheen to it. And sometimes when the light hit him just right, David could swear he saw scales. Then came the true price. The covenant requires sacrifice, Pastor Grace said one night, the aquarium bubbling behind her desk. Not money, not animals, something more precious. She handed him a contract written in symbols that hurt his eyes to look at. Your humanity, David. That's the cost of true prosperity. Sign in blood, and you'll never struggle again. David's hand trembled as he held the contract. What exactly am I giving up? Asked Felix. Pastor Gray smiled. Ask him why he never sweats, why he doesn't appear in photographs, why his bathroom always smells like the ocean. The pen hovered over paper. And my family will never want for anything again. Her eyes glowed like the fish behind her. Or stay poor. Watch your mother die. See your sister drop out. Keep struggling until you're too old and bitter to even dream of better. The choice felt like drowning. David's signature was barely complete when the burning started. It began in his chest, a cold fire that spread through his veins. The fish in the aquarium pressed against the glass, watching with hungry recognition. That's when he saw the truth. In the aquarium's reflection, Pastor Grace's form shifted. Below her waist, scales glinted. Her teeth were too sharp, her eyes too bright. She wasn't a pastor at all, she was something ancient, something that fed on human souls. And the fish, they'd been human once. Each scale held the memory of someone who'd signed away their humanity for wealth. David ran through the marble halls, past startled ushers, into the Legos night. Behind him, he heard Pastor Grace's laughter, felt the pull of the contract trying to drag him back. But David had one advantage. He'd signed the contract, but he hadn't completed the transformation. He still had a chance. He ran to the only person he thought might help, his mother's old friend, Mama Ayabo, known for her knowledge of traditional medicine and spiritual matters. Foolish boy, she said when he showed her the contract's burning marks on his skin. You think you're the first they've tried to take? These water spirits have been hunting in Legos since before your grandfather was born. How do I break free? Mama Ayabo's eyes narrowed. The contract must be destroyed, but more importantly, you have to expose them. Their power lives in secrecy. For the next week, David prepared. He gathered evidence, screenshots of bank transfers, recordings of ritual ceremonies, photographs of the contract. He found others who'd escaped the covenant, each bearing similar marks, similar stories. But Pastor Grace wasn't going to let him go easily. Strange accidents kept happening. His brakes failed on 3rd Mainland Bridge. A snake appeared in his bathroom. His shop almost burned down. Then they took his sister. "Come back to the church." Pastor Grace's voice was honey sweet on the phone. "Peace is enjoying our special fellowship." The fish seemed to like her. David had until midnight. The church was dark when David returned, lit only by the aquarium's eerie glow. Peace sat in front of the tank, her eyes glazed, watching the fish swim. "Welcome home." Pastor Grace emerged from the shadows, ready to complete your transformation. "I know what you are." David's voice shook but held firm. "You're not a pastor. You're a marine spirit, a mammy water demon." She laughed, the sound like waves crashing. "Smart boy, but knowing doesn't save you." Her form began to shift, scales replacing skin. "Your sister will make a beautiful addition to my collection." "No, she won't." David pulled out his phone and pressed live. Instantly, his evidence began streaming to every social media platform. The rituals, the contracts, the transformations. In his other hand, he held something wrapped in cloth. "What are you doing?" Pastor Grace's voice held real fear now. "Mama Ibo says hello." David unwrapped the object, an ancient mirror carved with symbols. "She says her grandmother used this to trap your kind before." The mirror began to glow, reflecting Pastor Grace's true form. The aquarium water churned as the fish began to thrash. "You can't watch me." The mirror's light grew brighter. Pastor Grace screamed, her form distorting. The aquarium cracked, then shattered. Water and fish poured out, but as they hit the ground, they transformed. Each fish became a person, former victims of the covenant, now free. Felix gasped on the floor, human again. Peace blinked, coming out of her trance. All around them, confused people stirred, memories returning. Pastor Grace writhed. Her true form revealed half woman, half creature, all malice. The mirror's power pulled her in, trapping her reflection forever. "This isn't over." Her voice echoed as she vanished. "There will be others." Dawn broke over Lagos. In Pastor Grace's office, David held his sister while police and journalists swarmed the building. His phone buzzed constantly with notifications as his live stream went viral. "Brother," Peace whispered, "what happens now?" David looked at the empty aquarium, then at the people being reunited with their families. "Now, we tell our story, we warn others, and we remember, real blessings don't come with hidden costs." 1 year later, the computer shop in Computer Village has a new sign, Okafor and Sister Electronics. Inside, David and Peace help customers while their mother keeps accounts. It's not a mansion in Lekki, but it's honest work that lets them sleep at night. Sometimes, late in the evening, David sees expensive cars pull up to other churches. He watches young people drawn to promises of instant wealth, and he thinks about sharing his story. But then he sees the small mirror hanging in his shop window, a gift from Mama Ibo, and smiles. In its reflection, those who need to see the truth will find it. After all, not all that glitters is gold, and not all blessings come from above. Sometimes the real miracle is simply staying human. If something seems too good to be true, it usually is. Success built on shortcuts often carries hidden costs. This story is fiction, but its warning is real. Be careful what you're willing to sacrifice for prosperity.